Introduction, Jack. Thanks for having me here too. I'm really excited. There's a lot of great local nonprofits here. And I'm just really passionate about what we're about to share with them because I truly believe that if you're able to take your mission and your vision and turn it into a 30-second video, that's going to be your number one fundraising tool because you don't need to necessarily deliver the perfect pitch in person every time in order to bring people into your organization. You have this tool that's already created for you. And Jackie and we met at the Big Connect earlier this year, and we had talked about the idea of doing something like this. So you'll see later on in the presentation that you don't need a fancy camera to pull this off. You don't need an expensive camera crew or production crew. We demonstrate later on in the video that you're able to create effective 30-second fundraising videos with only a phone. And that's something that all of us have in our pockets today. And it's one of the trends we're seeing that's changing in video. At the end of the day, it's really about the story you're telling about your organization, as opposed to getting super fancy with how the video looks and all the technical aspects about it. So we're going to cover a lot of information here just in the process, but I just wanted to start with some of like the 3 benefits that come with these high impact videos. So number 1 is going to be, you're going to be capturing the attention of your target audience. So being able to quickly cut through and get someone's attention in this distracted world we live in today is something that a lot of nonprofits struggle with in the beginning. Essentially, you have 5 seconds to grab someone's attention and typically 30 seconds to hold it. So the challenge is, how do you, number 1, get that attention? And then secondly, how do you tell your entire story within those 30 seconds? And we're going to get into that a little bit more over the next few slides. The other big thing is it's a great tool to raise money. And part of the reason for that is you're able to draw emotion through the viewers, through authentic storytelling, through interviews from people that your organization has impacted, and just showing visually the impact your organization has is one of the most effective things you can do. It comes across way more impactful than if it was just a written blog post or a written article on your website. So that's why we're super passionate about the work that we do. But just to give you guys a quick intro, my name's Luke Adams, and I'm the creative director at Story Reel Studios. And what we are is a local video production company based out of New Haven. And we specialize in strategic storytelling. So helping brands realize what their story is, turn it into a 30-second video, and then use that 30-second video to raise money either for for-profit companies or for non-for-profit companies. So I've been doing this for over 10 years now. It's actually been my only job since high school. I've never worked another job other than video, which is pretty exciting because I've gotten to hear and be able to tell stories from so many impactful, purpose-driven organizations over the years. And it's really an amazing job. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity I have every day to work with these organizations. So in my 10 years in video, I've created probably close to 3,000 different videos now for about 200 purpose-driven brands. And the reason the number of videos is so high is that our company, whenever we work with a new client, rather than doing one video, we recommend creating a series of up to 100 videos for them. And the reason for that is you never know which video is going to be the most effective until you test it. So it doesn't hurt to try out different things and see what's working. And I always tell people in the very early stages, just record yourself talking about a topic that you feel confident about or something that your nonprofit does really well. See what engagement you're getting on that and see what people are really engaging with. And then from there, you can go in and create a more polished video out of that.
Are you struggling to capture?
So this is, I'll go back to that slide in a second, but this is essentially just a 30-second virtual business card about what we do. that I'll play real quick.
Are you struggling to capture your customers' attention in under 30 seconds? Action! At Story Reel Studios, we create videos that help your brand immediately stand out from the competition. Our process starts with collaborating with you and turning your vision into a reality. We produce unforgettable stories that inspire your customers and deliver measurable results to your business. Call us today and let's bring your story to life.
So essentially the goal with that too is we want to practice what we preach. So we use that video to get our clients' attention, and it's worked out really well. We've ran it on TV before. And it essentially just encapsulates what we do, what my company does in 30 seconds or less versus the 5 minutes that I took to explain it before. So it's just a more effective way to explain what we do. You could kind of visually see our process in action through it. So that's something we recommend creating. I like to call it a virtual business card. And essentially it's a 30-second video that encapsulates what your organization is about and what impact it has on the community. And so for the goal of this workshop, our goal is to help you craft your own low-cost, high-impact fundraising videos. And we're going to go over first how to craft a compelling brand message. And that's identifying really what your story is, what your impact is, and who you impact. Then we're going to show you how to produce an engaging video in a cost-effective manner. So being able to do it on something like your phone with very little equipment and have it still look great and sound great. And then finally, we're going to get into, once you have that video, how do you use that video to actually generate the results you're looking for, which is going to be to get fundraising money, raise capital, attract partners, anything that you're looking to achieve for a strategic outcome. So first off, I wanted to get into why video, I believe, is one of the most powerful fundraising tools for nonprofits and for-profit organizations when it comes to raising money and achieving those strategic outcomes. So number one is you're going to be able to capture your mission and vision in 30 seconds or less. I'm sure everyone in this room has had to deliver thousands of elevator pitches over the years, and I'm sure you have all perfected it at this point, but having it in video form just makes it all that much easier when someone asks, what does your organization do? Why should we believe in you? Instead of having to go into a 2 to 3 minute pitch in person, you're able to send them a video explaining your impact and your organization's impact. And it saves you time, and it shows in a more impactful, more emotionally powerful way what your organization does. And I think that's pretty amazing right there. Second part is you're going to be able to draw emotion through that authentic storytelling. By telling real stories that have real impact, you're able to really show at the end of the day what value your organization brings to the community. And emotion works really well when it comes to fundraising. So you want to be able to incorporate that as much as possible into your video. And just one of the facts, since 2018, that was only 4 years ago, online video watch time has doubled. So in 2018, average weekly watch time for online videos was 10.5 hours. It's jumped to 19.5 hours since. Which is pretty incredible, the amount of time we're spending watching videos online. So there really isn't a better time to get started in creating videos, because you have that captive audience of people who are looking to watch the content that you're going to create. So we have a process at Story Reel Studios. Anytime we create a video, a lot of people think it starts with taking the camera out and actually recording. But there's two very important steps that come before that. Number one is going to be brand identity and messaging. And this is really identifying what your story is and how to best tell that story. Then the second step is what we like to call in film production as pre-production, but it's really the creative writing and taking some of that brand messaging that you've outlined before and turning it into an actionable video script, video treatment, or outline of what you're going to shoot, who you're going to interview, everything like that. Then finally, after those two steps, do we get into production and filming the video. Once the video is filmed, that's when we go into post-production or editing. And that's piecing together all the footage we got into an impactful, story-driven video. The fifth step is once you have this amazing video finalized, you sent it to your partners to get their feedback, they love it. What do you do with that video to actually generate the results you're looking for? And this is where a lot of businesses end up, they don't end up following through as much as they did with the previous steps. A lot of businesses will finish their video production and not really know what exactly they're going to use it for. But this step is super critical. And sometimes we like to outline a distribution plan before we even shoot the video. And the reason for that is we like the nonprofit to know exactly what they're going to use a video for so that they can maximize the results they get from it. And we're going to go a lot more in depth on 20 different ways that you can use your video, 10 free ways and 10 paid ways to use it to get the results you're looking for. But to start off, we're going to talk about brand identity and messaging. So step one of any video campaign is going to be crafting a compelling brand message. And one of the quotes that really stuck out to me was, "Stories sell, facts tell." So when it comes to selling people on your mission, prioritize storytelling over facts any day. Facts are great for appeals or even on the website, and they're great to include in the video as well, but make sure you have that underlying story outlined first. So there's three elements that make up a great fundraising story. Number one is going to be making the community you serve the hero versus your nonprofit. And this is something that we recommend our for-profit companies do as well, make their customer the hero of their story. So you want to feature their story as much as possible versus only focusing on, let's say, the history of your nonprofit, which is definitely valuable in its own right for its own video. But when it comes to these fundraising videos, we really want to focus on the community members that you impact and serve and their story. Then we want to identify the unique problem you solve. So you'll see later in the presentation, we did a video with CPEN, with Doreen from CPEN. And the unique problem they solve is that there's a lot of vacant lots that end up being areas where crime can happen in local neighborhoods, especially in the New Hallville community. And what they do, their unique approach to solving that problem is transforming these vacant lots into community spaces. So she's done that with the learning corridor, which I think is a really, really unique concept in its own right. And it's very creative, being able to see something like a vacant lot, see the problem with that being in the community and see a unique way to solve that problem. Then finally, no story is complete without a call to action. And this is going to be the big ask. So what are you looking to accomplish? And how are you going to ask that of the audience? And you want to do it in an inspirational way where they're excited to become part of your mission and join in on your organization story. So before you start with your outline, and we're going to take a pause after this slide, and I'm going to have each of you kind of just answer these questions in like a sentence or two on your own. And then we're going to ask a few members in the audience too what they came up with for it. But just to outline a few brand questions that you want to ask yourself in this step. Number one is who. So what community of people is my organization helping? What do they want? Who are they, and what problem are they facing essentially? Number two is we want to outline the unique problem that you're solving. So for Doreen, to go back to that example, she's solving the problem of vacant lots leading to crime in neighborhoods. Number three is why, and this is why you personally believe that this problem needs to be solved. Why do you feel compelled to solve the problem that your organization is tasked with? And this is where I get really excited. Anytime I ask this question to nonprofit leaders, they have some really great answers, because at the end of the day, they're leading with their passion, and they're leading with their big why. So what is your big why? Fourth is how. So what's your unique approach to solving this problem? Then finally, what outcome am I hoping to achieve? And how will I ask the audience for support on this? So let's say you're hoping to raise $100,000 for a new park that you're building in a community. So first off, you want to say that on camera. Say why you want to achieve that, first of all, and then why you need the help of the community. Why should they believe in you? So now we're just going to take 5 minutes, and I'll have each of you just kind of roughly write down an answer, 1 to 2 sentence answer for each of these, and then we'll ask some members of the audience what they came up with. Answer in there right now about her organization. So they help adults and children with intellectual and addiction recovery. The problem that they're facing is that population was formerly institutionalized and at risk for abuse. Their why is they care about this vulnerable and often marginalized population. And their how is we provide person-centered care that seeks to give individuals best quality of life possible and integrate them within their community. 5 is they're seeking ongoing support to continue with the various services we provide. I think that's a really great job already. My only recommendation would be a little bit more information on the why, maybe a personal story that you have that connects with it, and adding that into your video. And I think your how is really great too, and that makes me kind of visualize what it would look like in video form already, which is pretty exciting. So then Kate is helping the current and future makers, creators, artisans, and entrepreneurs of Greater New Haven. Awesome. And those who use their services. So what problem are they solving? Lack of access to tools and skills keep great ideas from becoming real products. That's a really great tagline right there. I could see that working really well in a script. The why is Greater New Haven is enriched by a strong community of artists, artisans, craftspeople, makers, which I think is a really great why right there. And being able to interview maybe artisans about the impact they've had on the community, I think could be a really good way to highlight that. So Kate is hoping to achieve awareness of makerspace, leading to new members joining, supporters donating money. So I think that could definitely be accomplished in a 30-second video, because I was pretty clear based off what you had written there on what your organization does. So probably even more so in the video format, it would show really well. Community dining room, soup kitchen. Our mission is to address food security on the shoreline through meals, outreach, companionship, and support services. That's really great because you include the how in your first statement too, I noticed. We address more than just a meal. We solve this problem by providing hot lunch meals 7 days a week and 6 additional nutritional programs. And I really love the impact statement, serving well over 46,000 meals last year. Something that really helps when you have a great statistic and a great fact like that is pairing it with a story. So having someone mentioning that statistic and then having someone mentioning what it meant to have a meal for them or their kids at that point in their life. And I think the pairing of those two would work. I worry that it might, her answer might have been a little bit too vague. It's hard to get so specific when there are many ways people use the space. It's okay to be general in the videos. You don't need to be overly specific. Back to the point of stories sell and facts tell. You can overdo a video by overcrowding it with specific information. Your goal is to get people to get curious about wanting to learn more about their organization, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to say all the great things you can do in 30 seconds. You really have to oversimplify it and over clarify it. And just a side tip there too is you want to avoid lingo that only, what was that?
No, go ahead.
Jackie, were you saying something?
Yeah, I'd like when you finish
Okay.
this one, I'd like to break in because there was one that you skipped, and I'd like to go back to that because I think there's a slightly different take on it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, my last tip with this is you want to just keep it as simple as possible. Avoid lingo that only your organization knows. And the litmus test with a good video, good fundraising video, is show it to someone who has no idea what you do and see if they could answer those 5 questions that you laid out before.
So I'd like to go back, Luke. Before Kate, there was something from Janice who talked about the overarching issue. We need not only donations, but new members, volunteers, and their input to create relevance to the community. I would argue that that's the call to action, and that you still have to answer all these questions first. You still, if you're trying to get volunteers and new members, you have to tell them what you do, what the problem is, how you go about solving it, why your organization is unique, what you're doing. You have to answer these 5 questions. Then the call to action is slightly different. It's not just open your checkbook, it's come and help us. Is that where the,
Yep.
I mean, you'll lay out the story first.
Yep, so you want to lay out the story first because you want to, the call to action, a general call to action should inspire people to join into that story. They want to be part of the impact that you're creating. And how do they do that? They can donate money, they can become a new member, they can volunteer, or they could give their input to create more relevance in the community. So essentially, you just want to inspire them with the story about what you do by answering above the why, essentially. And if you can show that, people get
Right, and I did go through and answer those questions.
Oh, awesome. That's
Right,
good.
I did answer the questions. I just noticed that there was an issue that followed it, when I talked about the who. It's like we're a new, we are reaching out to the New Haven community. We're a place to study. We have, meeting space, we have unique programs, a social justice reader program, a little art gallery that, services Connecticut. I mean, we've got some things going on. But now that we're coming out of COVID, and I'm sure other people have this issue too, we sort of have to rebuild the part that didn't happen. So if you're rebuilding, I wasn't sure how to handle that.
So rebuilding as in the sense of you're rebuilding kind of the community that you serve.
Right, and rebuilding the programs that we used to offer directly to the library, because it's wonderful that they're supporting those programs, but we still have, a wonderful space that's in need of support as well. But it has to be, you're right, it needs to be more relevant. I wasn't sure how to say, donate so you can help us, rebuild. Is that a good way to, rebuild programs and relevance to the community? And I wasn't sure how to spin that for a video.
So I would say something along the lines of, first off, like interviewing people that were program members beforehand, before COVID, having them tell their story, and then having you kind of give the appeal and the ask and saying, we, after COVID, we had to stop programs because, and we weren't able to continue giving to support to people like you were before, and that were sharing the story before. And then talk about your plan to rebuild those programs, go into the how of how you're going to rebuild them, and then say, we need your support on something like this, help us continue to make these stories happen, something like that.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you for that. That was a great question. And then I think we have one more that just entered the chat from Ann McCarthy. Boys and Girls Club of New Haven. We serve New Haven youth ages 6 to 14. The majority of kids we serve are people of color and from low-income households. Summer can be a risky time for kids as a problem. It can be filled with fun and discovery, or it can be fraught with loneliness and learning loss. I think that's a really great, that's like an advanced skill right there too, where you're painting a picture of what the problem is without the program in existence. And then you're showing the success and what it looks like with the program. So with the program, they're able to experience fun and discovery with their summer. If the program wasn't there and wasn't able to help them, then they can experience learning loss and loneliness as a result. Our mission is to inspire and enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to realize their full potential as productive, caring citizens. Really great mission statement. We offer a full day summer camp that protects our kids. Great how statement. We want to provide summer camp to hundreds of New Haven kids at no cost. Your donation will help make that possible. Really great closing statement, because you show exactly what you're asking for and you make it a powerful mission. Like being able to offer that to hundreds of New Haven kids at no cost is an extremely powerful goal that people can really get excited about getting behind. Awesome. Kate and Lori saying they're hearing about everyone's organizations. And that's why I get so excited about my job, is I get to hear stories like this every day. And it's really powerful stuff, because everyone has such a unique organization and a unique way of solving problems. Because at the end of the day, we're all purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and we have a mission that goes beyond just making money, or we wouldn't be working in the nonprofit space. And I just think that's really powerful. Well, I wish we could get into some more nonprofits, but we are running a little bit low on time, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. But if you have any questions on like brand advice, feel free to email me directly, and I'd just be happy to like give you some feedback and help you strengthen some of those answers to those questions. So a lot of you already did this in the last example, but we have a formula for the 2-sentence elevator pitch. And this is something we usually have our organizations go through when they're planning their videos. So it's kind of a fill in the blank. My organization helps, and then you say who you help overcome, the problem you solve by, and then the unique approach or the how that you take to get there. And then another powerful thing to add to that is we believe, then your why statement. Why do you believe in solving that problem and are seeking? And then you go into your big ask. So this is kind of the formula we use to set as like a base for your video script. You should be able to answer this format in like, I would say 15 to 20 seconds or so. And it's just a good tool to see if you're able to explain the value your organization offers, and it sets a really good base for the video. And so I don't have enough time, unfortunately, to go into all the amazing things that come with brand storytelling. So this is some further reading that I recommend. I make all the people on our team read this book because it really helps you understand how to clarify marketing communications, and anytime you're communicating about your brand or your business. Includes the 7 elements of great storytelling in there. Really just a great book, and one of my favorites on the subject. And it's Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. So step number 2 is once you have your brand identity and messaging outlined, how do you turn that into a video script or outline? Because in this case, we're not scripting it out perfectly, because we're going to be asking interview questions that are authentic and off the cuff. So it's more of an outline than what you would consider a traditional script. And there's three questions we want to answer before we start writing the script. Number 1 is who should be in the video. So definitely the visionary or the founder should be in the video, because they're the ones who are really passionate, understand the why, and understand what's needed for the organization to grow. Another great group to be in there is community members that have been impacted or have a really powerful story to share on camera. So let's say you're working with the Boys and Girls Club of New Haven. You could potentially interview some of the kids that make up the Boys and Girls Club there. You could interview their parents on the value that they've received from that program. You could also include interviews with policymakers, specifically related to some of the things that are going on to the problem statement. So sometimes if there's a problem in mental health, for example, I'll speak to either a policymaker or an expert mentioning what the problem is in mental health, and it adds a layer of credibility to your organization, as well as highlighting the problem in a unique way. Next question is, how long should the video be? I typically recommend as short as possible, while including the 5 answers that you laid out in your brand message. But I've seen organizations use videos that are 20 minutes long as an ad and have it be super effective just because of how powerful the story is. So you could really experiment. I always recommend creating different options. So having a longer, like 5 to 6 minute video explaining everything your organization does and all the details for people who really want to learn more about it. But also having that 30-second introduction or virtual business card style video. Then what question should be asked? And typically you'll base those off of the questions that were laid out before. So this is kind of how it's done on paper. On the left-hand side, I like to include interview questions or sound bites that I'm looking for. So let's say we're talking to a mental health research company. One of the interview questions we might ask is, how is your research improving mental health? What's a specific story or piece of research that's really made an impact on the mental health community? And then on the right-hand side of that, we're going to show footage, what's called B-roll, or secondary supporting footage, is the shots that's going to go along with the interview. So if he's talking about the research they've done for mental health, maybe we want to get close-up shots of the beaker, shots inside the lab. So writing down the visuals, I think, is also very important, because interviews are powerful on their own right. But if we can visually show what they're actually talking about, it adds so much to the story. And it just feels more engaging and immersive of an experience when you're watching the video.
Simon is creating
So I'll show you the script for that video first, and we'll just go through it really quick so you could see it in action. So this is an anchor video, or a main video we created for Cybin. And what Cybin is they're a brand new startup, essentially, in healthcare, with the big mission of revolutionizing mental health care. And they have a very unique how behind their mission. So the way they're planning on doing this is using the power of psychedelic molecules. So psilocybin, essentially, and reverse engineering what works really well on brain chemistry for that, turning it into a prescription therapeutic that can be used in conjunction with psychotherapy. So it's a pretty complex how. Being able to show that on camera, like, made us get pretty creative on how we chose to highlight this story. So you'll see here, I have different points in the audio section, and they all coincide with the problems that we went over before. So the mental health pandemic, that was a problem that they're trying to solve. So some of the interview questions I asked in that video were, how has COVID-19 impacted mental health? And then I'll write buzzwords of what I'm looking for too. So I could try and get that from the subject, from the interview subject. So I really wanted them to mention frontline workers, anxiety, major depressive disorder, pandemic related, panic, stress, PTSD. So instead of telling them that they need to mention those in their answers, I try and work that into some of my questions. So how has COVID-19 impacted mental health with frontline healthcare workers? How has COVID-19 worsened anxiety? How has it made major depressive disorder worse? You want to keep it conversational versus giving them a script to follow. Because at the end of the day, your audience will be able to tell the difference between authentic storytelling and pre-scripted storytelling. So then with the visuals, I knew we wanted to create an infographic or an animated text going over some of the key mental health statistics post-pandemic. I knew we wanted footage of mental health therapy and traditional medication. So using stock footage of SSRI medication would be impactful there. And then I knew, because they were based out of Boston at the time, I knew we wanted to showcase Boston with a sunset drone shot. So I won't go through this full thing, but as you can see, I separate points, the solution or the how. In one sentence, explain what Cybin does. Example, at Cybin, we are revolutionizing mental health care by progressing psychedelic therapeutics. And then a lot of people might not know what psychedelic therapeutics are, so I always ask clarifying questions and have them explain it in simple terms that anyone would understand. And I'll just show you their brand film really quick. It's a little bit longer. It's a 90-second, so 1.5 minute brand film, but their mission was pretty complex and their how was complex. So
Cybin, we are literally revolutionizing how we treat mental health disorders.
Cybin's focus is to bring psychedelic therapies to market to support mental health conditions.
We're revolutionizing mental health care by uncovering the potential of psychedelic drugs.
I couldn't think of a better time to be doing this. The COVID pandemic has really created an even bigger mental health crisis than existed before. Statistics show that 1 in 4 people suffer from some form of mental health.
Is touching all of us, our families, our friends, and ourselves, and we need to do something about that.
Cybin is creating therapeutics out of psychedelics.
With psychedelic therapy combined with psychotherapy, we're providing treatment in a single dose that decreases the burden of taking a medication daily, also decreasing the side effects that are associated with SSRIs.
One study showed a 4 times greater effect size with psilocybin in depression compared to SSRIs. And so we're developing treatments that have very rapid onset of action.
For psychedelic medicine to be available and prescribable, it means that families get their loved ones back. It means that people that have been suffering from these illnesses have hope.
Hopefully through our psychedelic therapeutics, one day we'll be able to say that we really did revolutionize mental health care.
Cybin has great people, great chemistry, and a great mission.
Cybin means innovation.
Cybin means compassion. Cybin means hope.
Cybin means the future.
Cybin is
okay, so essentially with them, we tried to prioritize their why as much as possible. So why did they feel compelled to solve the mental health pandemic and the mental health crisis? And then also going into their how and how it differs from a traditional approach. So sometimes when you're going up against the challenge of a stigma as it relates to your organization's mission, you have to demonstrate why your how is more effective than the alternative. So that's kind of what we went into with the SSRI medication. The result of that was, before the video, they had a team, a very small team of 20 people. Because of the video and some recruitment videos we created as well, they were able to grow it to 55. And they also gained approval to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. And they used that video as a tool to explain what it is that they did to the New York Stock Exchange. They also raised about $50 million in private investor capital over the course of, we've been working with them for 7 months now. They are a for-profit organization, but they're definitely a purpose-driven organization. So that's why I felt compelled to share that and share the approach we took with them. So now step number 3 is, once you have the script outlined, how do you actually turn it into a engaging video? So before, I'll show you a video demo with CPEN, kind of explaining the steps we take. But before that, I just wanted to show you, what equipment do you need to buy? A lot of people think you need thousands of dollars worth of video equipment to pull off a professional looking video, when that's just not the case anymore. The phones we have in our pockets shoot 4K video, which is more than enough quality and more than most professional cinema cameras did 5 years ago. So really, with the right techniques and the right plan, a phone will be more powerful than what you can create with a cinema camera in many cases. And if you're looking to upgrade slightly, you don't want to shoot it on a phone, I recommend an entry-level DSLR like the Canon SL1 is a great choice. One thing you'll definitely want to buy, though, is what's called a lav mic, which is pictured right here. And essentially what that is it attaches to the speaker, the interview speaker, and it gets you crystal clear audio no matter where you are. They're pretty cheap. They're about $60 to $100 for that lav mic. And then you're also, if you're going to shoot any interviews inside, want to get some indoor lighting like this, which again is super cheap. You would just type in video lighting on Google or on Amazon and should be able to find a lot of products related to that. So I'll go into the video demo with CPEN now. It's about 5 minutes long. And I'm just going to introduce Doreen from CPEN really quick. Doreen was kind enough to let us film a demo with her organization. And I briefly mentioned it before, but what they do is they turn vacant lots into spaces where community can gather. And specifically in New Hallville, they created the learning corridor out of what used to be called the Mud Hole, which was a crime hotspot in New Hallville before CPEN came along. So they have a really powerful mission. And this is the approach we took. We filmed with them in an hour, and we did everything on a phone just to show that you can tell an effective story with just a phone in your pocket. So I'll play that video now. And Jackie, have you been able to hear the audio on the videos that have been playing?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay, perfect, great.
Hi, my name's Luke Adams. I'm the creative director at Story Reel Studios. We're a New Haven-based video production and strategic storytelling company. And I'm here with Doreen from CPEN, an organization dedicated to improving New Hallville through some amazing projects. So our goal is to be able to capture their organization's story on camera in 30 seconds. And instead of shooting it on our main cinema camera, which is something that a lot of nonprofits don't have the budget for when they're just starting out, we're going to shoot it on something that's in everyone's pockets today, which is a smartphone. Okay, so step number 1 to creating videos and fundraising videos that actually work for your organization is authentic storytelling through the use of interviews. So who do you want to include in your video? Number 1 is going to be the visionary, the founder. So we're talking to Doreen from CPEN, having her share her story about the organization. We also want to interview people that are members of the community that your organization serves and show how their story has been changed as a result of the work your organization has done. But how do you actually shoot an interview that looks good and sounds good on camera? And to make it even more challenging, we're only using a phone for this. We're not using our professional camera. So step number one is going to be lighting. We have some harsh lighting coming in from the sun right now. So what we're doing is using this light panel to eliminate shadows. And what we're also doing is we're putting an on-camera lapel mic attached to her so the audio comes in super clear. So one thing you'll notice here is that I don't have a list of questions prepared. I don't have a notebook with my questions on it. That doesn't mean I come unprepared to interviews like these. I try and remember some of the questions I want to ask, but one thing that makes an interview more natural and authentic is if you keep it conversational and you ask the questions on the spot instead of doing something that feels more like a performance and reading off a list of questions with a big camera. You can keep it conversational and just shoot it on a phone and make it just all that much more authentic and all that much more impactful for your audience. So after you have some amazing, authentic interview shot for your project, what you're going to want to do is take some of the talking points that were mentioned in the interview and shoot what's called B-roll. B-roll is secondary footage that you put over the talking points to essentially make the video that much stronger. So for example, Doreen mentioned how people use this as a bike trail now. So we're going to get some footage of that as well as some of the garden and some of the other talking points that she mentioned in the video. So then this is going to be the demo coming up next. And we shot this 100% on a phone. It was a OnePlus 9 Pro. It's a Samsung phone, but you could really shoot quality video with any iPhone. And we did all of this in about probably 45 minutes to an hour with Doreen last Friday.
So my name is Doreen Abubakar. I'm the visionary and founder of CPEN. What we do is we repurpose vacant lots and public spaces into places that will serve where people live, work, and play. So we took over a space that used to be called the Mud Hole that is located right on the Farmington Canal Trail, and we turned it into the Learning Corridor that is designed and actually kept by the neighborhood. Well, this is a post-industrial neighborhood. There are 7,000 people in a 1 mile radius. So when you have a lot of people and no good places for people to gather, a lot of negative things could happen.
When CPEN came along, people started being active more, people started coming out doing more community, neighbor activities. CPEN has really gotten people out their houses and helping around their community and also being out in their community.
Well, the next step is to really start to bridge resources into the neighborhood through the public spaces that we've designed. And we also want to create some entrepreneurship. We want to maybe bring in and start to create a marketplace in the same space. So those are some of the things we're looking forward to try to bridge into the community.
So that video was roughly a minute long. We originally aimed for 30 seconds, but because of some of the specific points like the learning corridor, we needed a little bit more time to discuss that. So that's something you'll find too when you're creating videos, is sometimes you'll originally want to plan for a 30-second video, but your story ends up being a 1 minute story. And we found that sometimes you just can't cut it down any further than that and still have it showcase everything that makes up your story. So never think that you have to hit 30 seconds on the spot, especially because there's many ways other than traditional TV to air it now, where there's no hard and set limit. So you can run a Facebook ad that's 20 minutes long, or you could run one that's 12 seconds long. There's no preset time that you need to worry about. And just to recap really quick too, some of the points when you're shooting a video like that on set. So number one, when you're shooting an interview, any sort of interview, you want to watch for good natural lighting. So right now, I'll show you the light that I have in my room just for this interview. So you want to either have, if you're shooting indoors, you want to have some nice soft light on this side of your face, essentially the one that's farthest from the camera. You never want the light head on like that. And if you're shooting outdoors specifically, especially in bright sunlight, you want a diffusion panel, which you could even use a sheet or anything that's white and a little bit transparent. And what that will do is it will soften the shadows on your face, because you don't want your subject to have shadows that are too strong anywhere. Second is audio, and audio might be the most important part, because if you can't hear what your subject is saying, it's going to immediately take you out of the story. People will forgive bad video before they'll forgive bad audio. So that's why we always recommend a lav mic. You're nine times out of 10, as long as you're not standing in front of a highway, you're gonna get great audio. We've shot outdoors, as you saw from Doreen's video with C-Pen. There were people passing by on their bikes, and still her audio came in really clear. Finally, once you have the video shot, you have, let's say, 4 or 5 interviews filmed of all the people you want to include in your video. You have some really great B-roll. How do you edit it into a cohesive and engaging video? So we recommend a few different softwares for this. Number one is going to be iMovie. iMovie is a free software that comes with every MacBook or every iMac. And with iMovie, you're able to lay out a pretty basic storyline, and has enough features where you shouldn't have any issues. The advanced and professional version of iMovie is Final Cut Pro. And if you know how to use iMovie, Final Cut Pro is pretty intuitive, but it has a few more professional and advanced features. Adobe makes Premiere Pro, which is Final Cut Pro's competitor. It's very similar, but it has a different like user experience, and it's a little bit harder to learn if you're not in the video production space. So I always recommend Final Cut Pro if you can, if you have a Mac, but Premiere Pro works just as well. So obviously I can't get into a full like editing tutorial on this, but I'm just going to give the 3 most important parts and 3 most important steps when it comes to editing. So number 1 is going to be editing. If you shot 4 or 5 interviews, each interview is 10 minutes each, you have 40 to 50 minutes of interview footage to go through at that point, which is a lot. So your goal is to take that, find the best sound bites, and edit it down into the best 1 to 2 minutes of speaking. And there's a few ways to do this. Typically, what we like to do is listen to the interviews and label what people are saying at what time in the video. That way we can search and say, hey, we need a really great clip of someone talking about the research they've done on COVID, for example. We could pull that up just through a simple search. And then once you have that 1 to 2 minutes, you want to kind of restructure the interviews into a story. So starting with just a general statement about who you are, then going into some of the problem speaking points and the problem you're solving, then talking about the community. And then finally, you want to talk about your how and your approach. And then you end the video with that ask again. So structuring it out like we did before, super helpful here. Editing is another chance to really shape the story. Editing makes a huge difference, in my opinion, on how the story comes together. And even without the best footage, sometimes you can rescue it with a great edit. Once you have the interviews laid out the way you want them, you're going to add that secondary footage or B-roll over that. Typically, I like to structure it. You might have seen in the Simon video. Let's say we have an action of someone pulling out one of the capsules of whatever they were working on at the time. Rather than just showing one shot, we could tell a story by showing a variety of shots. So we started on a wide shot of the scientist in the lab taking the capsule out. Then we went to a close-up of his hand, and then finally we went to a close-up of his face. So that's 3 shots of the same action right there. And that's just an advanced way to immerse viewers in your story more. But whatever secondary footage you use, you want to have it match what your interview subject is talking about. Finally, you want to add music and text to fully immerse your viewers in the experience. The song you choose or the soundtrack you use is perhaps the most important part of the edit because it sets the tone and emotion. So you really want to do some searching there. And typically nonprofits have to have royalty-free music. So I would recommend a service called artlist.io for any music that you're looking for, because that will give you royalty-free options, meaning you don't have to pay for copyright usage. Kate asked a great question. Is there a good, ideally free editing resource for vertical videos to be used in Instagram Reels? That's a really great question. And that's something that we do with our company too. For all our clients, we try and do Instagram Reel content. So I'm gonna see if I could pull one up on my phone, but I used Final Cut Pro for that. You could do it in iMovie as well, which is a free software. So let me just pull up a Reel video. So this is what we did for Cybin. It's going to be a little bit hard to see and it'll probably be backwards.
Who is Cybin? I tell them that we're working on new approaches to develop evidence-based treatments for mental health disorders by transforming classical psychedelic drugs into safe prescription treatments. So when people ask me,
so essentially we edited that in Final Cut Pro into the vertical format in a 15-second timeline. That way we could quickly get people's attention. And you're able to re-edit the videos too. You don't need to shoot them vertical, especially in 4K. What you would want to do is set a project, go to project settings, and there should be an option for vertical video. And then you set it to there, reposition your clips so they're properly centered, and then just cut the story down a little bit. Jackie asked, could you repeat the royalty-free music site? So I'm going to type it in here as well as say it. So it's artlist.io. And it's, so typically I believe you have to pay for a membership there. It's pretty affordable, but if you're looking for completely free music, you're going to want to go to YouTube and type in royalty-free or copyright-free music. And there's a good amount of choices just on YouTube alone for that as well. And then with text, as you saw in Doreen's video as well, we like to add text to kind of exemplify some of the answers to those questions in simple ways too, and exemplify what they're talking about. And it just adds to the experience and makes it more memorable for the viewer. So finally, we get to distribution and marketing your video. So once you have your video, how are you going to use it to actually get the results you're looking for? When I just started my video business, this is a problem I noticed because I would get hired to create videos for businesses and they didn't end up working for that business. And it was purely because they didn't have a distribution plan to use it. They just simply added it to a page on their website and thought people would go to it. So going forward, about 3 years ago, we decided that no matter any video we created, we were going to offer distribution strategy for free to make sure it works for them. That way they're getting as much impact out of that video as possible. So one of the things that there's 10 free things you can do where you don't have to spend any money once you have the video on how to use it. So number one is going to be adding it to your website, specifically your homepage, to boost conversions. So once people land on your website, the goal is to either have them reach out to you to learn more about your organization, volunteer their time, or make a donation from your website. The way video is going to help you achieve that goal is you have that 30-second explainer, and they don't have to read a lengthy paragraph explaining everything you do. They're able to just click on the video, learn about what you do, and if it resonates with their values, they're going to be all that much more excited to convert into a volunteer or a donor. Next up is creating an email campaign. So most of us in this room, most of the nonprofits here have lists of hundreds or thousands of people that they've connected with over the years and have a list of their emails. The second you finish that video, I recommend creating either a automated email blast or a personalized email to each person in your network if your network's a bit smaller, saying, hey, we just created this video to explain what our organization does. We'd love your feedback on it. And we'd love the opportunity if you pass it along to your network and share it. And typically, a lot of places will do that, especially places that are close to your network will be willing to share that for you. Next up is creating a social media post. Anytime you make a video, make sure you have it flow to your social channels. So you want it uploaded to your Facebook page, you want it on Instagram, maybe you want your video turned into a few different Instagram reels. Just get as much content as you can on social media because it's free. Then you could use it as a PR tool to get free press. So let's say you wanted an article in the New Haven Independent, for example, or the Wall Street Journal, let's say. You would reach out to a writer there, and instead of explaining what you do in the body of the email, you could attach a video saying, here's a 30-second video explaining what our organization does and how we help achieve your why, essentially. Then another really great way that I've seen video used specifically for some of my clients too, is when they have a gala or a fundraising event. And at these live events, you can play a longer video too, because you have a captive audience. So we've noticed at live events, when you have that captive audience, anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes is really the sweet spot for those style of fundraising videos. And typically you'll be able to see the result of the video right after the fact, especially if you have people donate immediately after at the gala. You'll really be able to see how effective that video is for you. Another great free way, I recommend everyone do this as soon as you get your videos, add it to your email signature. All of our clients do this now, and what it does is anytime you send an email and someone's curious, instead of going to your website immediately, they could click on the video and learn more about your organization. If you have digital signage in your office or at your location, could be a great way to just play a looping video so people can put a face to the name of your organization before they meet with you in person. It could be sent to potential partners. So let's say you have a really great organization that you want to be a part of, or you want them to join in on your story. You could send a personalized video to them explaining why you want to join forces with them, essentially. Another great tool is if you have the time and the resources, you could create personalized thank you videos. These don't need to be fancy, but anytime you get a donation, you can create a video thanking the person, essentially. And you could have an intern do it, or you could do it yourself. Another really great like hidden gem strategy, I like to call it, is posting in local community forums. We've had clients post in like the Wallingford Community Forum before, and people just tend to really engage with the content there, especially for local nonprofits. So if you're a local nonprofit, post a video in the community forum, and if you have new videos, consistently add them there if your admin allows it. And then if you do have the budget, there's a few paid ways where you can really amplify the impact you create. So one of the ways is going to be airing a local TV commercial. I don't recommend nonprofits start with this if this is your first paid opportunity. And the reason for that is you can't really track the success of the campaign as much as you could online. But if you have an ad that's working really well and you have the budget, it doesn't hurt because you're going to boost awareness and you could get in front of a lot of people that way. So the thing I would recommend doing first is airing a social media awareness campaign. And you can do that pretty affordably in your local area. You're going to want to use Facebook Ad Manager for that. And that will allow you to run ads on both Facebook and Instagram. Then once you have that set up, we recommend creating a retargeting campaign using what's called a Facebook pixel. And a Facebook pixel tracks anyone who comes to your website and allows you to take people who have visited your website before and continue to show them new videos. And one of the things I love about retargeting is, let's say you have 2,000 people visit your website a month. In order to get in front of those 2,000 people, it's going to be pretty affordable compared to if you had to reach a cold audience of 30,000. So it's a very cheap way for you to stay top of mind with people who are already engaging on some level with your organization. Next up is you could launch an OTT campaign, and what that is, over the top media, is essentially streaming. So Hulu ads. Hulu recently opened a self-service platform, which is pretty intuitive. So you can go onto their platform and essentially run an ad on your own without any technical expertise, and it will gear it towards essentially what outcomes you're trying to get. So you don't need to hire a marketer or a ad media buyer for Hulu. Next up would be airing a national TV commercial, which can obviously get very expensive, and that's limited to if you really have the budget for that. I would only recommend that once you've done all the other strategies super successfully and you have some leftover budget. A really fun one to do is what's called creating video cards or brochures. Maybe you guys have received these before or seen them, but what they are is it's essentially a brochure that opens up, and let me see if I have one here actually. I think I do. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab one really quick. So I believe it's dead right now, but you could get the gist of what it is. So it's a card like this with your logo on the front. And then it has a video player in there. So you can place your video in there. You could personalize the video too. So if you're sending it out to a really big potential partner, you could start off the video by saying their name. And there's options for different videos too. So you can say 30-second about us video here. The next option could be the story of someone you've impacted, maybe a 2-minute story. And then the final one could be like a history of your organization or something like that. These can get kind of expensive too. Typically, they're about $50 per video card. So I would only recommend it for strategic outreach, or if you're thanking donors, thanking some of the bigger donors in your organization. Next up, you could place your video on digital signage. Similar to some of the ads you've seen in Times Square, they'll rent a space for digital signage. Again, it's with nonprofits, it might be more challenging to do that because you're not able to use sound in digital signage. So some of the interviews wouldn't come across the same, but it's worked really well for direct to consumer brands and fashion. Another great one could be creating an influencer marketing campaign. So let's say your organization helps or is trying to help revolutionize mental health care. You would find the 5 top influencers in mental health care that are speaking on the subject and reach out to them about partnering with them to tap into their audience. Typically you have to pay for that, but sometimes an influencer is willing to do it for free because they really believe in your organization. Another thing you could do is create your own media or content channel. We've seen places like Patagonia do this before, where they create their own branded documentary content. And essentially they create an audience of people willing to watch their content. Another very simple one, and I don't know if this is a paid one or not, because it's like $10 to get a QR code, but adding add your video to a QR code on your business card so people could scan it and just watch it right away. So now that's basically it for my presentation, and we have some time left over, it looks like. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you have in the audience too.
This has been really great, Luke. Thank you so much. And I just want to remind folks, you have a couple of opportunities in the Great Give to use this video or any videos that you create. So you can do it on your profile. There is a place to put it on your main page for your profile. You can also use it with your peer-to-peer fundraisers. They can put it on their profiles and their emails that go out, any social media that they have going out or that you have going out. You also have an opportunity to do a thank you video. So if you've collected all this great B-roll and you've collected all the people who have been impacted by your program, and you're making that great call to action to get people to give, use some of it to say thank you, and create another video. You know, you can do two 30-second videos as long as you're now pros on it, and create a thank you message, and that can go in, and you can drop that into your thank you note from your dashboard. And I think we have at least one question that came in. So
yep, I saw it. I think one was on Vimeo. And so Vimeo is a professional content service. It's similar to YouTube. But the thing that I would say with Vimeo is people won't be able to find your videos as easily as they would on YouTube. It's more for embedding onto your website, creating private links. So if you're going to create a private thank you video to send out to your donors or your sponsors, it's a great tool that way because it's private. It doesn't show random recommended videos like YouTube would if you sent out a link that way. And it's a more professional hosting service essentially, but it lowers your findability. So it lowers your visibility with that video a little bit. So I would recommend using both YouTube and Vimeo for your nonprofit. And then let me just see the chat again. Suggested length of video for some of the sources. That's a great question too. So Facebook, what works best for Facebook, we've noticed, is like 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes. It's a little bit more engaged of an audience than Instagram. Instagram video, the sweet spot is 30 seconds. That's typically when you'll get people falling off. Website video could be anywhere from 90 seconds to 10 minutes because you have more of a captive audience on there. Instagram stories, 15 seconds. Yeah, there's a lot of different lengths that I would recommend creating, and you can test. Something I didn't really get into here is something called an A/B test, where you take a 30-second video on Facebook and you put it up against a 5-minute video, and it will show it to random samples of your audience essentially, and you'll be able to see who's engaging with what video more. Maybe you'll find the 5-minute video works really well just because you have more information in there, or maybe you'll find that the 30-second is what works the best. Awesome. Let me see if any more questions.
Well, we are just out of time.
Yeah, I'll just answer the last one here. Is the A/B test something you pay to do through Facebook? It comes free when you pay to run an ad campaign, and you can do it pretty cheaply on the platform too, but it is a paid feature when you're running paid ads primarily. But I just wanted to end today with thanking all of you for sticking with me through the presentation. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you guys got something out of it that will help you when you go into the Great Give and just help you create a tool for your organization to just amplify the impact tenfold. And if at least a few of you got that out of it, I would be very, very happy with how it went. I'll leave my website and email in the chat as well. and feel free to email me with any questions you have. I'm always just happy to help with organizations too. We do just a lot of like free consulting for nonprofits in our free time. And like if you have a plan for a video or a script you want to run by me, feel free to send it my way. I think I put my email twice inside my website.
Did you drop it in the chat? Because I don't see it in the chat.
Oh, I guess that just went to, that was a direct message.
Okay.
Let me put it to everyone.
Okay. Well, I did see just pop up in the chat, and I want to thank Stephanie for all of her work on this and for reminding us that we love to have your feedback in a survey. It's really brief. Please take it. It's very helpful. We're also planning the rest of the workshops that we're going to do for lots of other topics this year, and this will give us some great feedback if you can take a minute to do that. Thanks, Luke. Your email is there, and your website is there. And add the royalty-free music address again. I didn't see it.
Artlist.io.
Artlist.io.
Yep.
And again, this recording and the slides will be posted in the nonprofit toolkit on the Great Give site. May take a couple of days to get that up. Our staff member on the other side has been out, so it may take a little while to get the up, couple of days as opposed to this afternoon. So it's not going to be very delayed, but it will be coming up. This was great. I'm so grateful to the chamber for putting us next to each other.
Yeah.
You know, it was a great meeting, and you know, see, they connect. You really do connect and make some great connections. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for this presentation. Thanks for bringing so much good stuff to all of these nonprofits that came along, and thank you folks for sticking with it. Hope to see all your videos soon. If you get them, send them to me. I'll make sure they get to our communications department. Let us help you push them out. Looking forward to that. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.